The Psychology of People. Who choose solitude. Introduction. There is a moment in life when something changes inside a person. They stop chasing attention. They stop explaining themselves. They stop trying to convince everyone that they are worthy. And from the outside, people may think something is wrong. They may say, "You have changed. You're becoming distant. You don't seem like the same person anymore." But what they don't understand is that sometimes isolation is not a sign of weakness. Sometimes solitude is the beginning of transformation. Throughout history, some of the most powerful thinkers, creators, and leaders spent periods of their lives alone. Carl Jung explored the hidden parts of the human mind and discovered that people often avoid solitude because they are afraid of confronting themselves. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, understood that a person who cannot be comfortable with their own thoughts will always depend on the outside world for peace. The truth is simple. A person who learns to be alone learns to meet themselves. And that encounter can completely change their life. Chapter 1. Why modern people fear being alone. Modern society has created a strange contradiction. We are more connected than ever before, yet millions of people feel more alone than ever. Every day, people are surrounded by notifications, messages, videos, and endless conversations. But when everything becomes quiet, many people feel uncomfortable. Why? Because silence removes distractions. When there is no noise, no opinions, and no constant entertainment, a person is forced to face their own thoughts, their fears, their regrets, their insecurities, their unanswered questions. This is why many people constantly search for external validation. They need someone to tell them they are important. They need someone to approve their choices. They need someone to confirm their identity. But Carl Jung believed that true growth begins when a person starts exploring their inner world. The journey toward becoming whole requires looking at the parts of ourselves that we usually hide. The parts we don't want to accept. The shadow. The hidden emotions. The painful memories. The fears we never speak about. Most people run away from these things. But the person who chooses solitude begins a different journey. They begin to understand themselves. Chapter 2. The difference between loneliness and solitude. There is a difference that most people don't understand. Loneliness is the feeling that something is missing. Solitude is the decision to reconnect with yourself. A lonely person says, "I need someone else to complete me." A person who embraces solitude says, "I am learning to become complete within myself." This difference changes everything. Being alone does not automatically make someone stronger. The transformation happens when a person uses that time intentionally. Reading, thinking, creating, learning, healing. Solitude becomes powerful when it has a purpose. Many people fear being alone because they associate it with rejection. They believe, if nobody is around me, maybe I am not valuable. But this belief gives other people control over your identity. Your worth cannot depend on constant attention. Because attention is temporary. Opinions change. People leave. Situations disappear. But the relationship you have with yourself is something you carry everywhere. Chapter 3. Why people who grow often walk alone. Growth often creates distance between who you were and who you are becoming. When a person starts changing, not everyone around them understands. Some friends only like the old version of you. The version that always agreed. The version that always helped. The version that never said no. But personal growth requires boundaries. Sometimes becoming stronger means disappointing people who benefited from your weakness. This is why many people experience periods of solitude during transformation. Not because they failed, but because they are rebuilding themselves. A tree does not grow taller by staying exactly where it was planted. Growth requires change. And change often requires leaving behind old environments. Marcus Aurelius wrote about controlling what is within your power and releasing what is outside your control. You cannot control who understands your journey. You cannot control who stays. You can only control who you choose to become. Chapter 4. Carl Jung and the Power of Facing Your Shadow. Carl Jung believed that every human being carries a hidden side. A part of ourselves that contains emotions, desires, fears, memories, and impulses that we prefer not to acknowledge. He called this the shadow. The shadow is not evil. It is simply the part of ourselves that remains unconscious. The anger we never express. The pain we never process. The insecurity we try to hide. The dreams we abandoned because we were afraid of failure. Most people spend their entire lives running away from their shadow. They distract themselves with entertainment. They seek approval from others. They constantly chase achievements, relationships, and external success. But no amount of external success can create inner peace if a person refuses to understand themselves. This is why solitude can become such a powerful experience. When you spend time alone, you begin to notice the thoughts you usually avoid. You begin to see patterns. Why certain situations hurt you. Why certain people trigger you. Why you react emotionally to things that seem small. Solitude creates a mirror. And that mirror reveals who you truly are. But many people do not like what they see. Because self-awareness requires honesty. It requires admitting, I have things I need to change. I have wounds I need to heal. I have behaviors that are hurting me and others. This process is uncomfortable. But discomfort is often the doorway to transformation. The person who avoids their inner world remains controlled by it. The person who understands their inner world begins to control their life. Chapter 5. The person you become when nobody is watching. There is a version of yourself that exists when you are surrounded by people. And there is another version that appears when you are completely alone. The question is, who are you when nobody is watching? Many people build their identity around how others perceive them. They become what society expects. They choose careers to impress others. They make decisions based on approval. They hide parts of themselves because they fear rejection. But eventually, a person reaches a point where pretending becomes exhausting. The mask becomes heavier than the truth. This is the moment when solitude becomes necessary. Not because you hate people. Not because you want to disappear forever. But because you need space to discover who you are without outside influence. A person who cannot stand alone will often accept anything just to avoid feeling alone. They stay in unhealthy relationships. They tolerate disrespect. They abandon their dreams. All because silence feels more frightening than suffering. But when someone learns to enjoy their own presence, something changes. They stop begging for attention. They stop chasing people who do not value them. They stop trying to prove their worth. Their confidence comes from within. Chapter 6. Why quiet people often become the strongest. In a world that rewards constant noise, silence has become a rare form of power. The loudest person in the room is not always the strongest. Sometimes the strongest person is the one who can remain calm when everything around them is chaotic. Quiet people often develop something many others lack: observation. They listen more. They analyze situations. They think before reacting. They understand that not every battle deserves their energy. The Stoics understood this thousands of years ago. They believed that a person should protect their inner peace by focusing only on what they can control. your reactions, your decisions, your attitude, your effort. Everything else belongs to the outside world. A person who masters themselves becomes difficult to manipulate. Because manipulation works through emotional reactions. Someone who needs constant approval can be controlled by praise. Someone who fears rejection can be controlled by abandonment. Someone who needs everyone to like them can be controlled by criticism. But a person who has built a strong relationship with themselves becomes free. Chapter 7. The pain of outgrowing your old life. One of the most painful experiences in personal growth is realizing that the life you once wanted may no longer fit who you are becoming. Sometimes people think something is wrong because they no longer enjoy the same things. They no longer connect with the same conversations. They no longer feel comfortable in the same environments. But this is not always a problem. Sometimes it is evidence of evolution. A snake must leave its old skin behind. A butterfly must leave the safety of the cocoon. And a person must sometimes leave behind old versions of themselves. Growth creates a strange period of uncertainty. You are no longer who you used to be. But you have not fully become who you are meant to be. This stage can feel lonely. But it is also where transformation happens. The old identity is breaking apart. A new identity is being built. And during this process, solitude becomes your workshop. It becomes the place where you rebuild yourself. Chapter 8. The moment you stop chasing people. There is a powerful moment in a person's life when something changes. A moment when they stop running after people who do not choose them. They stop sending messages to someone who constantly ignores them. They stop trying to convince someone of their value. They stop fighting for a place where they are not appreciated. This moment is not caused by anger. It is caused by awareness. A person finally understands that chasing someone does not create connection. It only creates exhaustion. Many people spend years trying to earn love, respect, and acceptance. They believe that if they become better, quieter, more helpful, or more successful, everyone will finally see their worth. But true self-worth does not come from being chosen by others. It comes from choosing yourself. Carl Jung believed that the more unconscious a person is, the more they depend on external validation. They search outside themselves for what they have not built inside themselves. They ask, do they like me? Do they approve of me? Do they think I am enough? But personal transformation begins when the question changes. Not, how can I make people value me? But, why have I allowed myself to forget my own value? The person who understands this becomes different. They stop begging. They stop explaining. They stop chasing. And ironically, this is often when others begin to notice their presence. Because confidence is not created by demanding attention. Confidence is created by no longer needing it. Chapter 9. The psychology of emotional detachment. Emotional detachment is often misunderstood. Many people think it means becoming cold. They think it means not caring about anyone. But true emotional detachment is not the absence of emotion. It is the ability to feel deeply without losing yourself. A person who is emotionally attached in an unhealthy way gives another person control over their inner world. Their mood depends on someone else's behavior. Their happiness depends on someone else's attention. Their peace depends on someone else's choices. This creates emotional dependence. But detachment creates freedom. It means, I can love you, but I do not need to lose myself for you. I can appreciate you, but I do not need your approval to exist. I can accept your presence, but I can also accept your absence. This is one of the hardest lessons in life. Because humans naturally seek connection. We are social beings. But connection becomes unhealthy when we abandon ourselves to keep someone else. The strongest relationships are not created by two incomplete people searching for someone to complete them. They are created by two people who already know themselves and choose to share their lives. Chapter 10. Why pain often becomes the beginning of growth. Almost every person who experiences deep transformation has one thing in common. They went through a period of pain. Pain has a strange ability. It removes illusions. It shows us what was real and what was only temporary. When everything is comfortable, people rarely question themselves. They continue the same habits. They repeat the same patterns. They avoid difficult truths. But pain forces reflection. A betrayal. A failure. A rejection. A loss. These moments can break a person. Or they can awaken them. The difference is not the pain itself. The difference is what a person does with that pain. Some people allow suffering to define them. Others use suffering as information. They ask, what is this trying to teach me? What part of myself needs to change? What can I become because of this experience? The Stoics believed that obstacles are not simply things that happen against us. They can become opportunities to develop strength. Marcus Aurelius wrote about turning difficulties into fuel for character. The obstacle becomes the path. Chapter 11. The rebirth of a person. Who chooses themselves. There is a version of yourself that exists before transformation. A person who seeks approval. A person afraid of being rejected. A person who constantly compares themselves to others. Then something happens. They wake up. They realize they have spent too much time trying to be accepted by people who never truly saw them. They realize they have ignored their own voice. They realize they have been living according to expectations that were never theirs. This realization can be painful. But it is also liberating. Because when you stop living for everyone else, you finally have the opportunity to build a life that belongs to you. You begin to protect your energy. You become selective with your time. You stop explaining every decision. You understand that not everyone deserves access to your mind, your emotions, and your future. This is not arrogance. This is self-respect. A person who respects themselves creates a different life. Not because the world suddenly becomes easier, but because they become stronger. Chapter 12. The final stage before a person's life changes. Before a person transforms, there is often a strange period of silence. A moment where everything feels uncertain. The old habits no longer satisfy them. The old relationships no longer feel the same. The old identity starts to disappear. And this creates confusion. Many people mistake this stage for failure. They think, why do I feel lost? Why don't I feel motivated? Why does everything feel different? But sometimes feeling lost is not a sign that you are going backward. Sometimes it is proof that you are leaving behind a version of yourself that no longer belongs. Growth is rarely comfortable. A seed must break apart before it becomes a tree. A person must often break old patterns before creating a new life. This stage requires patience. Because transformation is happening beneath the surface. Like a tree during winter. From the outside, it appears lifeless. But underneath, something is preparing to grow. The same happens inside a person. The silence is not emptiness. The silence is preparation. Chapter 13. The power of becoming unknown. One of the most powerful things a person can do is disappear for a while. Not to punish others. Not to seek attention. But to rebuild. There is a difference between disappearing because you are broken and stepping away because you are becoming stronger. When a person stops announcing every goal, every plan, and every change, something interesting happens. They begin to protect their energy. They stop looking for applause. They stop needing people to understand every step of their journey. They simply work. Quietly. Consistently. Patiently. The world often celebrates results. But it rarely sees the lonely hours that created those results. The early mornings. The difficult decisions. The moments when nobody believed. This is why solitude can be powerful. It removes distractions. It allows a person to focus on becoming instead of performing. A person who is constantly trying to prove themselves is still controlled by other people's opinions. But a person who works in silence becomes free. Chapter 14. Why discipline creates inner freedom. Many people think freedom means doing whatever they want whenever they want. But true freedom requires something deeper. Control over yourself. A person controlled by their emotions is not free. A person controlled by their impulses is not free. A person controlled by the need for approval is not free. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you want to become. It is waking up when you do not feel motivated. It is keeping promises you make to yourself. It is choosing your future over your temporary comfort. The Stoics understood this idea clearly. They believed that the person who masters themselves becomes stronger than circumstances. Life will always contain things you cannot control. People will disappoint you. Plans will fail. Unexpected challenges will appear. But your response belongs to you. Your mindset belongs to you. Your actions belong to you. This is where true power begins. Chapter 15. The psychology of people. Who no longer need validation. There is a moment when a person stops asking for permission to exist. They stop asking, "Am I good enough? Do people approve of me? Do I look successful?" Instead, they begin asking, "Am I living according to my values? Am I becoming someone I respect? Am I creating the life I truly want?" This internal shift changes everything. Because external validation is a never-ending search. There will always be someone who criticizes you. Someone who misunderstands you. Someone who compares themselves to you. If your identity depends on everyone's approval, you will always feel unstable. But when your identity comes from within, criticism loses its power. A person who knows themselves cannot easily be controlled by the opinions of others. They listen. They learn. But they do not lose themselves. Chapter 16. The quiet confidence of a transformed person. A transformed person does not need to announce their growth. You can see it in their behavior. They speak differently. They choose differently. They react differently. They no longer waste energy on unnecessary conflicts. They no longer need to win every argument. They understand that peace is sometimes more valuable than being right. Their confidence is quiet. It does not demand attention. It does not need to prove itself. It simply exists. This is the difference between arrogance and true confidence. Arrogance needs to be seen. Confidence does not. A person who has built themselves from the inside does not fear being alone. Because they have discovered something important. The person they were searching for was themselves all along. Chapter 17. The person you become after you stop running from yourself. At some point, everyone faces a critical choice: continue living out of fear and comfort, or finally live according to truth. Choosing growth requires the immense courage to let go of the version of yourself built entirely to please others. You must accept that some people will not understand your journey and that growth often feels like losing everything before gaining something greater. When you let go of the desperate need to impress everyone and fear rejection, you shed your old habits of comparison and gain something truly invaluable: absolute peace. Chapter 18. The inner world creates the outer world. As Carl Jung famously noted, Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your entire life and you will mistakenly call it fate. Many people falsely believe their external circumstances or past wounds completely define who they are, remaining lifelong prisoners of unexamined mental patterns. True power and ultimate freedom do not come from attempting to control the chaotic world or other people. Instead, true power begins the moment you develop deep self-awareness, recognize your own thoughts, and learn the art of mastering yourself. Chapter 19. The person WHO does not need to be chosen. One of the most profound transformations occurs the moment you realize you never have to beg for a place in anyone's life or chase what is not naturally mutual. You begin to understand that rejection is frequently a form of divine protection, closing the wrong doors to keep you out of the wrong rooms. The ultimate goal in life is never to become an isolated person who needs nobody, but rather to evolve into someone who can deeply love, give, and connect with others entirely without abandoning your own soul or sacrificing your peace. Chapter 20. The Stoic mindset for a changing world. Because the world around us is inherently unpredictable and people will constantly change, trying to control external situations will only breed endless frustration. Following the timeless wisdom of the Stoics, you must master the fundamental rule of focusing exclusively on what you can control while gracefully accepting what you cannot. You cannot control external opinions, sudden departures, or the past, but you maintain absolute authority over your character, your everyday choices, and how you choose to respond to difficulty. Chapter 21. Your solitude can become your greatest advantage. The quiet, lonely nights and difficult internal battles are often where the strongest version of your character is truly forged. Because meaningful transformation and discipline rarely happen in front of an audience, they occur entirely in private when nobody else is watching. Just like extreme pressure creates a diamond, enduring life's toughest challenges and choosing conscious growth over cheap comfort builds a resilient, unbreakable mind. Chapter 22. The final message. One day, you will look back at your past self, the fearful person who constantly sought approval and questioned their worth, and realize they were never your enemy, just someone doing their best to survive. True growth is not about hating who you used to be, but about healing your past, stripping away everything that hid your true essence, and stepping into your light. If you currently find yourself in a heavy season of solitude, trust it as the sacred time where you learn how to stand alone, lead yourself, and become completely unstoppable.